What's up, good sir?
All right, Sid, how you doing, man?
I can't call it.
Yeah,
How you
has
doing?
been doing good, man. Been quite the year for you, man. Glad to be able to catch up a bit and talk about the book.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, man. First of all, just let me say appreciate you, man. Off the top, a lot of people don't know we write these books, but in your world, you're taken very serious, and you've just been a great help. So I really appreciate it, man. I appreciate that words of encouragement and just kind of lead me through. So people think that it just comes with celebrity, but book readers, book writers, the book culture is serious, and they deserve the respect. So big up, man. Thank you, fam. So,
Appreciate that. We're gonna appreciate you taking out some time to be able to talk about the book. We're definitely gonna dive into it. For those who haven't had a chance to read it, this book is really a page turner. It is a novel, but Sid, I feel like after hearing a lot of the interviews you've been doing and reading the book and thinking about Babe, I think, as you've talked about in interviews, there's definitely some characteristics that you've been able to bring in of yourself in this book as well. I want to dive into. Before we do that, I want to give you your flowers, man, on the year. I mentioned the year you've been able to have, of course, with SETA, and then, of course, you have AC Barbecue. You have the new single with MPE, Soft Shoe for people who haven't got it yet. What has it been like for you, Sid? And then, of course, the book Flipping Boxcars. What has it been like for you to kind of reflect on just this year and all you've been able to do, man?
I think, the thing comes is like so many people, you live your life. Oftentimes you can have successes, life can be good, and yet you have a lot of things in your head that you want to do, and you can doubt yourself from trying. And this year was just one of those years where, I just decided to try and do things that I, believed in, that I had inside me, and not necessarily prejudge it or decide that, people weren't going to really, they only know me as a comic. They're not going to, believe me as a novelist. They're not going to believe me as a singer, or like any of these things. So this was the year to just experiment, have a good time. And it was so ironic that, I just saw something on Andre 3000 just kind of talking about his space, where he was, and it really is that. And that is a degree of evolvement that I think that most of us got to allow ourselves. Most of the greatest things that we have to offer people are things that we often keep for ourselves, and we just don't share it. And we'll be quite surprised on how people actually will follow you and will dive in and will be inspired by another side of your personality. So, I've been really great doing television and film, but these new ventures are just that. They're new. I'm planting seeds. I'm not expected to be out here and be the top #1 R&B singer in the world, not the #1 novelist in the world, but I'm planting seeds for something that I love to do, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you definitely are doing that and making, of course, not only a lot of buzz said, but what I've noticed, especially with the book, one of the things I noticed, of course, Amazon's a big platform for me, and people were like, they weren't expecting this from you, right? I think it's so different than what people expect. But the main character of the book, for those who have not had a chance to read it, of course, you have Floyd Babe Boyce. He's an individual who really he has two sides to him, right? People know him as Babe in the streets. That's where he has a lot of disrespect. But to his wife, like Rosie, he's Floyd, right? What was it like for you to kind of, especially in this time period, Cedric, in the 1940s, kind of think about the two dichotomies that this man had to be able to walk in?
Yeah, that was one of the real key things there is, that became more and more profound as I was writing the book, was really thinking about the times in that, where we were. This is pre-civil rights. This is, in the middle of the Jim Crow of it all, and he's in the South. And, but because he had went away, was in the military. So he lived in Germany, in England, in France. You actually go out and recognize that the type of bigotry, the type of racism that we have in the United States was bolder than anything he experienced anywhere else. And he was there to fight for what was this dream, this idea. So when he came back, this is that period of his life where he can't put that back in the box. He can't put the fact that he knows a few French words, that he knows how to shop or eat or order a latte or and his mind is expanded. He's not necessarily the same person. And so to ask me to go through the back door, to ask me to, yes, sir, somebody younger than me, like all them things is out the window. And so I was like, how do you stand in your strength, be a man, and also know that you got to protect your family, and then have these dreams that are bigger than where you're trying to be boxed into. And that's really where I built the tension around the character and what's going on in his life at that time. And it just became very clear to me as I was writing it who my grandfather was, again, because a lot of people know he passed before I was actually had a chance to meet him. So these were all just kind of like my feelings about who he was as a person, and it became very real to me, and therefore it made me write this tale, this fiction.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on something you said, Cedric, because I think it's so important for people reading the book, because we are able to, I mean, the title in itself, I won't get too much into that because we see the dual meanings even in the book as the book unfolds. But I love the fact that we get to see Babe in his element. He's a gambler. He's a person willing to take chances. And there are people who will look at one side of him, Cedric, and say, you know, he's all about himself. He's all about the hustle. He's all about the win. But one thing we see, and I want our audience to really take a note of chapters 13 and 14 of the book, because we're able to see Babe not only think about himself, but consider others. And I'll talk around this, I said, so I don't give anything away, but we meet two other characters in the book, and that are Carl and Timmy, right? And in that, of course, we see them in a very dangerous situation. And what I thought, the reason why I bring that up is because Babe steps in, I'll say that, and kind of saves the day. And Carl asked him why he did it, because he didn't know them.
Yeah.
And his thing was, he said, I'm a gambling man, and I didn't like your odds.
Yeah.
And so talk to us about that for you, Cedric, because I think that may get lost for some people. That it's not, this book, yes, is about him and a big caper, you know, that he tries to pull off, but it really is about him showing that he is about more than himself as well.
Yeah, in a way, it's very interesting. I was thinking about, there's a little precursor to my show, The Neighborhood, like many times later. But the idea is that in our humanity, again, he was a serviceman, he had been in the military, but the idea of knowing that someone has got the odds against them, and he's actually lived that. He lives that pretty much on a daily basis. And, and they're down and they're being taken advantage of. For him, it was like, well, man, I saw the circumstance and then figured out I had something that I can offer. And that's pretty much, like, again, he kind of went there blindly, but as he recognized the circumstance, that's when he engaged. And so I think that, that's one of the kind of the key things about us and our personalities, and what I really wish we did more so as human beings. We used to have communities that was really that. It's a joke, but we used to joke about like how, people in the neighborhood could straighten you out if your parents wasn't around. And, in a way that says, hey, if you're breaking in cars or being a bad kid, somebody else's parent can actually say something to you. Nowadays, you scared to say something to anybody else's child, right? You just don't get engaged, and you let behavior get out of the, get crazy. And so, in this particular situation, he saw some people in need, and it just so happens to be, a situation that was interracial. Didn't know that when he got out the car,
right?
But even more so, he built a lifelong friendship with someone that was just, they were uniquely bonded by that moment. And so these are the kind of things I think that people don't necessarily take enough risk either to, to find ourselves helping somebody and then realizing that's going to actually give us something back in return, and sometimes tenfold.
Such a great point. I want to say, for those who are just joining us, we're talking about Cedric's book, Flipping Boxcars. We have not gotten it already. Make sure you guys head over to Amazon, your favorite bookstore, be able to get it for yourself. So you also been out there on the road, of course, talking about the book as well. And you bring up another great point, and that is another thing that I love about this book, because, of course, Floyd, or Babe, is the main character, but he really has his literal ride or dies. He is leaky. He is Carter. I want to talk about what that was like for you to show the power of friendship and brotherhood in this book, even when it wasn't even about them. They were really just wanting to make sure that he was good and that he had what he needed.
Yeah, I would say that that's also something very reminiscent of me that I kind of pulled out from my my grandfather through some degree of osmosis or something. I don't know, but my partnerships with my guys that I started with, my business partner Eric Rohn, over 30 years. My tour manager Kelvin Bland, since junior high school. Like, we ride, man. Like, and it's those kind of people that they hold you up, they grow, they build, they learn, they educate themselves. So, a lot like that we see like with LeBron or with Jay-Z's camp, these are people who are not just hanger owners. They come to contribute. And so I wanted to kind of show that partnership and what they bring to each other and why. And so I thought that was very important, that no man really is a mountain, that he's not standing out there alone. And again, he's got a beautiful woman that's got his back, which most of us really need, is somebody really hold us down. And then a core friend group that is there for you when things get tricky and get a little down. They see the things and the gaps and the holes that you don't see, and they got you covered. And that's very important. And I thought that was necessary to show, again, a person who is about helping people, a person who is not selfish in his game. Some of what we try to tee up, half the reason why he doesn't have the things that he wants in life yet is because he's so busy taking care of everybody else. And now he feels at 40, this is my time. And that's, another clock that we put in there. He was approaching his 40th birthday. And we all do that. We all have these kind of things in our head. Man, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to do this. By the time I'm going to do that. And those are good, litmus to try things in life, to give yourself deadlines. But, you also got to know that you got to get up and put your foot down and go forward.
Right. And I love the fact, too, that he's definitely a flawed character in many ways. And I want to actually share something from chapter 25 about that. But he's also someone who also is very, I think, aware of his own limitations. And I think Babe kind of gives him cover in many ways, it seems like, said, for Floyd. Because he doesn't seem to, as Floyd, right, feel as comfortable in his own skin as he does as Babe. But when that facade seems to shift, in chapter 25 of the book, it kind of is alluded to the beginning of the book, where he goes through what is one of the down times, right? And I love the way that you wrote this, as the one thing that Babe was known for, of course, and that was gambling. It was interesting the way you said this. It said that he felt lost. He felt blindsided. And then you said that he said to himself, I am lost. I think a lot of people can relate to that when they're going for that big thing, right? And things don't happen the way that they hope it does, or they want it to. Talk to us what it was like for you to kind of think about not only Babe in a situation, but also those times for your own grandfather when things didn't work.
Yeah, I think, that again, the idea of getting to that particular scene, writing that out, is that as a gambler, as a risk taker, you often, you have to believe in yourself. I think about, me starting comedy from St. Louis. It was the Midwest. It's in the mid to late 80s. You got to be in New York or you got to be in LA to make it. That's what everybody's telling you. You can't do it from here, guys. Like, it ain't a thing, right? And so, yet, I've gone to school. I got a college degree, and I feel like my mother, who is described in the book when she was younger, but she was an educator for over 30 years. And so education and having a job and doing the right thing was a part of my makeup. So when I discovered I can be me, like telling jokes, now the fear of I'm gonna let my mom down if I don't make it, and if I don't try, I'm gonna let myself down. And this is where it is a degree of finding yourself lost, because you know that you want to satisfy the goal and the people that's all around you, want to please them, and at the same time you are who you are, and you need to try to be that person. And so that's where I believe that Babe was, and that's where, when he said he was lost, he just, because he believed, man, I gotta do this, and yet it ain't going the way I like you explained. It's not going the way I think. And so that part is where we all find ourselves. But we, like each and every day, you got to do it. You got to push through. You get up, you build, you go again. And, you know, but when you're in the middle of it, you can't nobody tell you that, man.
Right.
You're in the middle of it. You like, man, damn.
Yeah. The last thing I want to ask you about, Sam, I really appreciate this time, and that is about something you talked about at the beginning of the conversation, and that was Rosie, his wife.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so interesting, and again, I'm going to talk around this so I don't spoil anything, because like any relationship, of course, they will have their challenges. But I love the way that you talked about their relationship in chapter 28 of the book. And again, if you guys have not gotten this book, we're kind of whetting your appetite here, letting you know
man.
why Flipping Boxcars should be on your reading list so you can check it out. But I want to read this, said, and we talk about it. This is what I love about what you said about the two of them. Babe and Rosie both knew that the two of them as a couple, was right. More than that, they were necessary. Babe knew from the first moment, from his trick shot, shooting the cardboard over his shoulder, nailing him in the forehead, and winning the stuffed bear they would call Blue, that more than anything they fit. I know her, Babe thought then. I've known her forever. She is where I want to be, he thought now. She is home. I think that is something everybody, like you mentioned, wants to find. And that's an important relationship in this book, even though people will see that is tested for sure. What was it like for you writing that dynamic between Babe and Rosie in the book?
Well, you know, it was one of the things that I probably would say I took the most honor from, because my grandmother was truly the most relationship I had. I never really met my grandfather. So my grandmother is actually how I felt him, right? And though, you know, like, you know, through knowing her and loving her and her being a part of my life, recognizing the woman she was, the woman she made my mother to help my mother grow to be, like, and my whole family. Of course, you know how grandmothers are. They just be the super matriarchs, like killing it. And so from there, it's like, who is that girl, right? Who is that girl to a man that gets to love her as his woman? Like, what does he see when he sees her? And I love the fact that, you know, again, I'll give a little bit away in the book, but they both own other dates, which is, again, some things just not perfect when it happens. They're both on other dates with other people, and they see each other, and it's a thing that both of them recognize, like, oh, and just through pure energy and the right thing, it opened up for them. And I just love telling that story, because it is how you feel like great loves kind of manifest when it belongs to you, when it's yours to have. You know, and I've had, you know, friends with relationships like that, where they, you know, they love their person, and it was hard. It wasn't an easy route to get to each other, but they were the ones that belonged together. And so that's what I really love about that, and why I wanted to share it, because I felt like, you know, to see my grandmother as the object of a man's true affection is another way to see a person you love as Big Mama. You know, that's different.
Yeah. And that whole be against the world thing too. I love the dynamic, even when trouble came with others in their lives, how they would be able to talk those things out. I think another great point for sure. The book does leave with some questions.
Yeah.
So that I have to ask you the question. I know you've been asked it already, but can we expect to see more Babe?
Yeah, definitely. We decided, you know, when I was kind of approaching this, even when I talked to the publishers, regardless, you know, the book, we, of course, you want to be on the bestsellers list and do all these things. Yet we understood that when I was building this, I was building a dynamic character with other stories to tell, and everybody was excited about it from the very beginning. So we definitely gonna, you know, tell a little bit more about Babe, and I'm excited to dive in there. I'm also, of course, you know, I'm television and film, so working very hard to get this converted and you know, sold off this IP to make a project out of a TV or film project. I like both, actually. Yeah.
Love that. Last thing I want to ask you, and again, appreciate you taking out this time. I know it's a crazy busy time, plus right around the holidays, so I know you want to get back to friends and family. What has it been like for you to know, I mean, we talked about Babe and what an inspiration he was to other people and how he inspired people. Like I mentioned, Lindsay and Carter, and how other people looked at him and they saw something. What has it been like for you to be that person for so many people?
I mean, for the most part, I really embrace it. It's something that I feel like that's a natural part of my makeup and build is that, I've never been one that needs all the light. I can always figure out how to shine wherever I'm going. So please get you some of this, And so I think that's very important. I think it's important. Again, my mother was an educator who was a reading specialist. She spent a lot of time just wanting people to be better by learning how to read, learning how to, be just stronger if they can read, they can be stronger in their communication. They can be stronger in their understanding and empathy towards others. All these things were what she believed reading brought about. And so I think I just kind of take that idea that humanity is all about us living together, living on earth together. You can be this and I can be that, and at times we can do it together. And so I think that's really how I feel like I want to be able to project into the world. And so, that's why, so much charity work I do. And, again, my friend groups, my family tight, that's how I get down, man. I just try to keep it on the love and the love and the happiness, the real Al Green version.
Yeah, I love it. Again, everyone, Flipping Boxcars available now on Amazon. While you're on Amazon, go ahead and get Soft Shoe by NPE and Cedric The Entertainer. Or through your favorite streaming site. I push Amazon a lot, Cedric, as you know, but it's available in the other places too. Really appreciate this time, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Cyrus, thank you, man.